agreed to, and I call the member for Indi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Colleagues, I welcome this legislation as an opportunity to talk about my electorate and some very important topics, but particularly that of agriculture, and focusing in on agricultural research and our national model for funding agricultural research. And I would like to talk and stress the importance of the integrity that underpins the way that we as a nation fund our agricultural research, and say this is not the time to tamper with it. So this particular legislation does that. It changes the way our corporate R&D are able to spend funding. And while it does have the support of the relevant R&Ds, it expands the definition of marketing activities, and I think that's a negative. But today, I really want to call on the government to pay some attention to research and development, and to the minister at the table and my colleagues on the other sides, particularly the National Party, how extraordinarily disappointing it is to read the budget papers, to look for agricultural research and development and find there's nothing there, no plan for the future. Sure, there's some money there for marketing to employ some people in overseas countries to open up our markets. But this whole idea of how do we grow the productivity of Australian agriculture has just been left for dead. And it shouldn't be that way. So in my electorate of Indi, we've got a huge amount of agricultural production. We've got a very strong agricultural stakeholders group that lobby me constantly. And today I want to talk a little bit about agriculture in my electorate. But before I go there, I want to talk a little bit about the history of research and development and my involvement in it. So, colleagues, before I was a Member of Parliament, I worked as a consultant in agricultural research and development, and my job was to extend the knowledge of R&D out to the community and pay particular attention to women, who are mostly the business managers on farms, and to young people. And as a result of 20 years' work of working in R&D and extending that knowledge that came out of our research, I was approached in 2011 to be part of a Rural Research and Development Council. And the point of the council was to come up with a national strategic investment plan for research and development. And colleagues, I really would like to draw this to the attention of the House, because it was excellent work. It was supported by everybody. But as sadly happens, the idea of a national investment plan in R&D and a coordinated approach to research and development in Australian agriculture got left by the wayside, and sadly still hasn't been picked up. And we see the lack of that investment and that planning, I think, constantly in many of the problems we are facing in agricultural research. So that was a really important document, and I bring it to the attention of the House and make a recommendation that the Minister and his staff pay some attention to the recommendations in that report. So that was 2011. And in 2015, we had the Agricultural Competitive White Paper with an investment of $4 million, but no national plan. It was, in my opinion, an ad hoc, let's do this, let's do that, lots of programs. But it was a piecemeal approach to how the nation should develop its agricultural resources. In 2016, I was a member of the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Agriculture and Industry, and we did an inquiry into agricultural innovation. It was a fantastic group of people to work with. We had cooperation right across the House. We did extensive work. We met with research and development innovation right across the nation. We presented a report to the then Minister for Agriculture, and it just sat there. And none of the recommendations of that House of Representatives Committee have been looked to in any way, shape or form. So we don't have a plan for agricultural research. We don't have a strategy for it. And I think the nation is the less because of it. And if I could bring to the attention of the House, other nations and many of our trading partners have taken this step. So, for example, the European Union in 2015 developed a report. It's called Towards a Long-Term Strategy for European Agriculture Research and Innovation to 2020 and beyond. Now, look, it's just so obvious, it just seems mind-boggling to me that we in Australia haven't actually taken that step. So there's models we can follow. The call's been put out. It's just been a failure of this House to actually take up the call. So for me, it's not only a policy paper that we need the opportunity, and I think with our new minister, my call out to him is to begin work on this in a productive way, so that by the time we get to 2020, we actually do have a strategic plan for agriculture, research, development, innovation and extension. So when I saw this legislation come before the House today and the changes in it, while they're small, they actually talk about marketing. And one of the things that has really frustrated me with agricultural research and development and the way we spend our money is the organisation power of our marketers to grab the bucket of money for R&D and say, yeah, but we've got to market, we've got to sell what we do, we've got to get overseas and market our produce. Now, for sure, marketing is important, and I would never for one say it doesn't need some investment. But for me, the real gold of agricultural research and development is the research. It's taking our ability in Australia to produce fantastic food, grow fibre, do things with agriculture and innovate, value add, so that we actually create the jobs in the regions and in the cities that are going to be the future of this nation. And I think we're letting us down. I think we're letting industry down, and I definitely think we're letting our farmers down. And it's really a sad thing for me when I go and talk to my farmers in my electorate, to the small-scale farmers, to the large-scale farmers, to the exporters, and I say, but we don't have a national plan. And rarely do I come to this House and hear my colleagues actually talk on legislation that's relevant to R&D. It's just a thing that doesn't seem to, I suppose, grab the interest of the House. And to me that's such a pity, because agriculture really does still underpin, for many of us who live in the regions, our livelihoods. So in my electorate, I just want to say my way of tackling this lack of, not only in Canberra, but the need for regional R&D and local R&D, is we've been running what we call North East Victorian agricultural dinners, bringing together the leaders in education, in marketing, in logistics, stock and station owners, stock and station agents, researchers, academics, farmers and allied agricultural professionals. So we've had 3 of these dinners, and they've been a terrific success, the opportunity for people to share ideas, to think about vertical integration and to actually think of the role of North East Victoria, which has over 50% of the water that falls in the Murray-Darling Basin, falls in my electorate. But it's very underdeveloped. We've got so much potential. So we get together and we talk about what we might do. We share knowledge, expertise, and we look at the documents that the Victorian government has done on sort of regional development and opportunities for regional growth, and how can we, as communities, actually value add to that. And there are so many opportunities. So in my electorate alone, and I know it's reflected right across Australia, in my electorate alone, North East tourism, it provides 27% of the regional employment, and it's based on agriculture largely, on our food, on our wine, and the experience of coming to North East Victoria. So something like $692 million into the economy. So it's not just the figures I could give you about agricultural production, it's what we do with it, it's how we innovate it, how we bring people to the country to see and enjoy the wonderful experience we've got to offer. But what we know in my electorate, what we've been told, is we need more collaboration, we need a lot more confidence, we need a hugely more skilled workforce, and we need infrastructure. And there's very specific recommendations that I constantly bring to this House. How are we going to collaborate in agriculture on research and development? Where can we get the confidence of the university sector, the agricultural sector, the industry sector to actually take the risks that innovation needs? And skilled workforce. It's one of the huge issues that we face, is how do we actually get the people we need with the knowledge we need in the area? And part of the failing there, significant failing, has been the lack of a strategic approach to higher education in rural and regional Australia. And it's an issue I take up with the Minister in the Senate, the Minister for Education and Higher Education in the Senate, and say, where's your strategic approach to growing the workforce that we need in the country? And, for example, I'm just so disappointed in a way that much is made in the budget last night about how we're going to train doctors, and we've got a network of university hubs to train doctors. Well, that's well and good, and doctors certainly are useful in keeping people healthy. If you're sick, they're very useful. But where's our strategic approach to training agricultural scientists? We don't have it. And we've got such a shortage. I think a couple of years ago in Australia, the figures have changed a little bit since then, but we had the number was something like 600 agricultural scientist graduates a year, and we had jobs for 5,000 of them. And there's no workforce plan for this, there's no strategic approach for it, no one even talks about it. And yet agriculture is just so important for the whole economy. So I'm putting the call out there to the ministers to pay some attention to this, to my members of the opposition as we get ready for the next election, to give some thought to what your agricultural research and development policy would be. And I wanted to take an opportunity just to talk about two agricultural producers in my electorate who have done such amazing work, and a real call-out. They're leading examples of agricultural research, innovation, creativity, where they do such good local work employing people, innovating produce and then marketing it so well. So I'd particularly like to note Gurumata Olives. Gurumata is near Rutherglen on the Murray River, and to Rob and Melanie White, just huge congratulations to the wonderful work you do. I know you've just been awarded international prizes at the New York International Olive Competition, and so proud not only of getting that international award, beating the Italians and everybody else in the world. So our olive oil, a family-based business, competes on the international scene. They're locally based just near Rutherglen. They're a tourist destination, and they're the most fantastic contributors to our community. But we know we can do so much more, but just a call out to them. And another example I'd like to briefly mention to the House tonight is a different sort of business. It's the Australian pumpkin seed business, which is near Myrtleford in the Ovens Valley. And a real call out to Sharon West Rivet and to your husband for the fantastic work that you do in growing pumpkins for pumpkin seed, and out of the pumpkin seed making pumpkin oil, and then doing the magnificent work that you do not only with oil but cooking, and then you're value adding to all these other products like hazelnuts, all sorts of other oils that you can now buy in your shop. And they tell me that they have people up at Gundawindi growing pumpkins and right across Victoria. So a huge opportunity to expand, and means that we don't actually, if they grow, we don't actually have to import pumpkin seeds from overseas. So it's just a small business, but it does such good work, employing people, acting as a tourist destination in the Ovens Valley, and then value adding to our produce. And I have to say what a delight it was to go there and see the oil press actually operating, and the oil coming out of the pumpkin seed and the paste left over, and how it gets used in so many different ways. You know, nothing is wasted. So just a call out to Australian pumpkin seeds on the terrific work you're doing, the innovation, the research, the development, and what leaders you are in agriculture. And from me to say how proud I am to be a representative in Parliament. So in bringing my comments to a close, what I really would like to say to Jane and Sharon, who do the work at Pumpkin Seeds, to all the farmers into Indi, to all the people who work in agriculture, I'm certainly your advocate here, and I take my role really seriously to work with my colleagues on the other side, to work with the Labor Party, to work with the Greens, to have Parliament understand that agriculture is the foundation for so much of our nation's wealth. But if we take our eye off the ball, if we let R&D go, if we don't actually have a strategic long-term investment in innovation, in workforce planning and in value-adding, if we get sucked down the road of marketing only, we will get to a dead end. Because if we haven't got the innovation, if we haven't got the creativity about our products, no amount of marketing is going to work for us on the world scale. So in closing, I say to my colleagues, the advisors in the boxes tonight, to the Minister who is here, and to all my colleagues around Australia who I know care so much about R&D, can you join me within this push? Can we encourage this Minister to have a conference to call together R&D and to actually look at a long-term strategic approach to how R&D in agricultural research can enable us to take our place as a leading industry in this nation?